Hello and welcome to Perspectives. This has actually become the new format of Perspective. We end up having this massive discussion before we go into the show. We have businessmen, executives, a lawyer, people who are related to money making in Pakistan. And the discussion which was happening before we went on air was various brands who are doing phenomenally well in Pakistan. One would assume that Pakistan and with three metro cities, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, very, very few malls. Islamabad has its first mall. Lahore hardly has a mall. Karachi has about three major malls. Yet the retail industry, the investment industry, the amount of money being turned around, the amount of money being made, the amount of profits being made, it's astonishing. So where is the disparity? Why does the world think money can't be made in Pakistan, yet money is being made in Pakistan? We'll talk about that, and we'll also like to see investment. The topic is investment destination in Pakistan. I'd like to thank one of my guests for suggesting the topic. I'll introduce him in just a moment. Is Pakistan an investment destination? Is it a safe destination for investment or not? Should the world be looking at Pakistan for investments large and medium small? It's not just the billions of dollars that need to go into the market. There are hundreds of millions as well, or just millions, which could be multiplied very quickly. Pakistan's real estate, Pakistan's retail businesses, Pakistan's online electronic businesses, which is beginning to happen big time now. There's massive opportunity to make money. We'll talk about that today. My guest, somebody who's been related to media, and I'll let him introduce. I don't want to call him an investor, but the CEO of Alexa Securities, Mr. Junaid. Thank you very much for taking the time out. Mr. Omer Javed Ghani, CEO of Securities, been with us before, and thank you again. Sorry? Executive Director. Executive. My apologies. Mistyped. Me, Mohammad, who has taken the responsibility for organizing these shows about investment in Pakistan. I'm really grateful that he's taken the step and making the effort for finding the right people to talk about the topic. Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Ali Asgher Khan, whose main line of interest and work and expertise is infrastructure and power. Also, thank you very much for being here. Jane, let's start with you. What sort of opportunities? First of all, what is your company doing? Let's talk about that. And also, what sort of opportunities do you think today's Pakistan is opening up?
Well, we're involved. Alexa Securities, and first of all, thank you for having us here. Alexa Securities is involved in two major lines of businesses. One is brokerage, primarily for stocks, and the other is corporate finance. In our brokerage business, we help local institutions like banks or asset management companies, individuals, and most importantly, foreign investors invest in the Karachi Stock Exchange. The other line of business is corporate finance, where we help local or foreign businesses raise capital, buy out other businesses, sell their companies, merge into other companies, so on and so forth. With regards to the climate in Pakistan and things that are ripe, energy is a very, very important sector where we can see a lot of investment coming into the future. Retail as a segment is becoming very attractive in Pakistan, and I'm sure my colleagues and friends here would shed more light on it. And in addition, telecom can also attract further investment going forward, given that the 3G auction is coming up. And then infrastructure overall. We're still a young country, still infrastructure start, a lot to be done.
You said energy. The nation assumes that we are in an energy crisis, will stay in this crisis. When you see a lot of opportunity, a lot of investment coming into that area, tell us more.
So the way it works is you've got a couple of options. Like any other country, you have your hydel resources, and then you build upon your thermal resources. Pakistan has tremendous potential in the hydel space, but you can never get your political consensus going. Then on top of that, we are an expensive energy producer. Most of our energy production happens with oil and then with gas. Globally, major chunk of energy production, power production happens with coal. Our power production with coal is negligible. It's less than 1%. So we have to fix that. For that, we need major investment amounts. You're talking about billions of dollars.
Interestingly, we have the raw material.
I mean, that's that's slightly complicated because the first and most logical step may not necessarily be to dig your own coal and then put your plants in the first step. You could start importing coal from outside, but get the plants in place if you want to get there quickly.
But in the long-term turnover, we're doing great in that area.
If your own coal is economically mineable and usable, great. If not, import coal and produce. It'll still be cheaper. So it'll still be cheaper than what you're doing right now.
Exactly.
Your cheapest form of electricity comes from either wind or nuclear, followed by coal, followed by gas, and then towards the end, oil. So globally, all your big plants are run on coal, and they meet your base load requirements. And then for peak hours, when there is a spike, you need to fire up a small tactical plant, you run it on oil. Our policies have been quite funny, to be honest, that we are a net importer of oil. We're not an oil-producing country. And we pay for oil in dollars. So we have a double whammy going on. We're importing, we're paying for it in dollars. So it's impacting our foreign exchange as well. And a huge hit on our import-export balance.
You said it's funny. It wasn't a funny policy. Actually, the joke was on us. And even the double whammy was, I think, for the nation, but for the select few, there was no whammy at all.
Absolutely. I mean,
it was but like you said, the political consensus. It's an interesting era for Pakistan where Prime Minister Mohammad Nawaz Sharif and his party PMLN have a very broad mandate. I mean, they've got the strength in the assembly where they're not beholden to those. So let's see where that goes. Omer, tell us.
Right. I mean, this is quite interesting. We were just talking about consumer spending taking off in Pakistan before this show took off, and Junaid just mentioned about foreign reserves being a huge burden because we import a lot of oil into Pakistan. Now, when you combine all of that burden with the consumer spending going over the roof and very little capital investment coming into Pakistan, we are headed towards, in my opinion, a direction that's not very sustainable. I think over the years, the foreign direct investment has come down and many reasons have been cited. If you talk about what the previous finance minister used to say, global economic crisis was one reason that he cited. The other reason was the security conditions and then flood situation. In my opinion, if you look at the global economic crisis post-2000, 2001, 9/11, Pakistan benefited tremendously. FDI improved for the first few years. So that could not be cited as a reason the last 5 years for the FDI going down. Security reasons also post 9/11, they were still there, but FDI continued to go up. So you can't cite that as a reason. What really went wrong, in my opinion, is lack of policy. Lack of policy at the top to promote and attract investments in sectors that needed investment, greenfield investments, power being one of them. Had that vision been there, had the policy been there, had the investors been marketed the sovereign risk aggressively, things would have been quite different today. So, it's never too late, and I think we still have time, and I think, we do realize that we need to change our direction, and people are now working in that.
I was about to say that.
Yes.
Do you think now we're making the right moves?
Well, at least we have become aware of the issue and the gravity of the issue, and people are working towards it. And then it's a matter of time you start working.
That's the important step.
That's the important step.
As long as you realize and start doing something about it.
Agreed.
If not today, in X number of years, we'll at least get that.
Absolutely.
When the government transition happened, people were so sure the stock exchange will nosedive. I think even in last show we talked about it.
Smiling.
This is it. The stock. Just wait a week. It's not going down. Thank God, alhamdulillah. It's sustaining, actually doing better. Comment on that, and also what you're doing, and what more to expect.
Stock market not going down has many reasons, which is a good thing. I think previously in Pakistan they had Badla system. I wasn't really aware of it. Having your exposure 5-10 times, and when the market went down a little bit, you were forced to sell, then creating a trigger effect. Pakistani markets, when we were talking in the last show, I said that that show was immediately after the election. I said everybody was in a euphoric state, an absolute euphoric state. And when that euphoric state has begun to die down, now the gap between perception and reality is widening. What the government can deliver and what the realities are. And it has nothing to do with the present government. Any government that had come into power would face the same problems.
Sure.
Okay. To be fair to this government, yes, they have retired the circular debt, which is a very big sign. Because of that, the first foreign investment right from our neighbors, UAE, of $6 billion for the Khalifa Coastal Refinery. They had held back that investment because they didn't want to come into a country which involves them and into the circular debt that has been going on. So that is one positive that has happened. We have to first see, are there investments available in the outside world that we can attract, as we were talking about the retail businesses. You open up a mall or a store where you foresee a lot of traffic. Now, is there illiquidity in foreign markets? No, it is not. Last quarter, China attracted $29 billion of foreign investment. So that means in the international markets, there is a lot of liquidity. We have to provide opportunities. And those opportunities will not come by us doing these shows only. It will come by changing policies.
Absolutely.
And absolute policy reform has to take place where foreign investors are facilitated, serviced, because as I try to invite more and more guests to this show, so many things that are happening, to be blunt, is we have amazingly experienced investment bankers overseas sitting there, my group, I'm 45, 46 years of age, so people who have been in the market for 25 years, 30 years and older than me. First thing you say, how to bring investments into Pakistan. I would like you to come and talk about that on the TV. They have a sour taste in their mouth about Pakistan. And that sour taste is not because of politicians, it's not because of the government, it's a lack of policy. There is no rigid regime that you can follow and go from point A to point Z. So I think the best thing what we need to do right now is to have policy reform, and that will bring in investment. There are investment funds out there who will invest in Pakistan. Everybody's making money in Pakistan. That perception is absolutely wrong, that Pakistan people are not making money, companies are not making money. If they're not, pack up and go. Tell me 5 companies in the past 10 years who have packed up and gone. Nobody's packing up and going.
All the multinational companies, whether it's Unilever, P&G, ICI, or whether it's the banks who've been here for 3 to 4 decades, the returns they've made are stellar, and they're still continuing. Unilever pretty much doubles its business every 3 years.
Wow.
That's the rate at which its revenues are growing. So everyone who's already here is making money, but if you flip-flop on policies, new money does not come in.
Fair point. We'll talk about that more. I'd like to comment on the general statements as well. But additionally, we are labeled as a lawless country, where we talk about policy, but there's also no law enforcement. There's no recourse in the legal system where there's corporate disputes, business disputes. So since you're also in that business, please comment that generally and also with your expertise.
Thank you much for calling us on the show. Pakistan, we've seen a huge surge, actually, an increase in the investment, at least in terms of post-2002, in the power policy of the country. You've seen a lot of power projects being launched in this country. I still remember the policy was launched in 2002, but the first project to achieve financial close was around in 2005. It took us 3 years to achieve that, but then suddenly in the next 4 years, we achieved 15 projects on ground were constructed. Luckily, we've been part of those projects. We've been legal advisors to those projects in different capacities. We've been able to successfully develop some form of public-private partnership systems in different, at least in the government of Sindh in Pakistan. And what we all benefit from all of these experiences is I would not necessarily agree saying this is a lawless country. If you ask us, the concession agreements and the contracts that the government has awarded to these IPPs, even to the wind sector, to the thermal sector, going to the infrastructure projects, these are tightly knit contracts. These are contracts where the government even gives you protection for a change in law, a change in policy, a change in tax. It makes sure that you do have your foreign exchange can be remitted back. So with all these protections in place, I am a very strong believer that there are systems in place, even to the extent that if you want a dispute resolution to be held abroad, the contracts even provide for that, which can be enforced in Pakistan. So I think there's a general perspective that people feel the country is in a lawless state. But I think with the present judiciary in place, the systems that are already in place, the country has come a long way from what it used to be labeled as in terms of lawlessness. So from what you're saying, maybe, can I add, sorry for interrupting, that maybe we, instead of being lawless, we are over-cooperative, sort of, to compensate the perception, and we are much more favorable place
than a lot of other similar countries?
I would not label it as being over cooperative. It just comes with the
not
fact.
in a negative way.
No,
not in a negative way, but we are really cooperative.
We are really cooperative, and I think the governments and the people in the decision in the power corridors do understand all the nuances for attracting foreign investment in Pakistan, a country that is labeled sometimes politically unstable or for other reasons. And for all those incidents, for all those risks, those are all addressed by the government to a certain extent. Now, we had a discussion over here, and I think it's very interesting that the policy, that is the most important part. A continuous shift in the government policy is what is making this country suffer, at least on the foreign investment side. I think the government we have a new investment policy 2013 in place, where the government is thinking of creating special economic zones, and they're thinking giving tax breaks to fewer sectors. And I think this all coupled together will make sure that a lot of foreign investors are brought into Pakistan.
Okay, when you say political instability, I think this transition, regardless of the skeptics and regardless of what people say, I think that label has gone. We are politically stable, regardless of what happens. And also, if I talk about changing governments, I think Japan changes more governments than we've ever done. But we keep saying flip-flop of the policy. Does the overall policy actually change, or maybe just the perceptions change? Because from Mohammad Bhuto's government, when the IPPs were happening from back then till now, the investment environment is always
the implementation, the way the government implements. Let me give you a few examples.
Please.
Now, the power sector, like there was a 1994 policy based on which foreign investment came in. There is a 2002 policy. Now, those policies determine how the government, or at what rates basically the government will pay these plants. But if the government decides not to pay them on time, then which policy is being implemented? Let me give you another example. Angro Corporation goes out, invests $1 billion in the largest single-train urea plant in the world, for which it has bought gas from the government of Pakistan through an open auction. The government decides to close the taps on the gas for all the major fertilizer plants and decides to import urea instead. There are several other examples. In the 80s, Nooriabad was established as a tax-free zone. A lot of investment came in, people put up factories. The government changed and they said this tax break is going away. Now, the good thing about Pakistan is, and what Muhammad Ali said, people still do make money. The people who are already here, who've come here during the good times. So right now, the perspective, the perception about Pakistan is that we're again in good hands, and these are good times. So you will attract foreign investment. But 5 years down the road, if you start flip-flopping, and I just gave you two or three different examples, then to attract more investors will become difficult. Now you see, investors are like pigeons. You have to call them in one at a time. You have to attract them one at a time. But one little thud, and they all fly together. So that's the problem with foreign investors. It's not a problem, it's a challenge. Now, there is Vietnam, there is Bulgaria, there is even UAE, there is the entire Africa, there is South America. They're all vying for those investment pools out of China, the US.
Going big time.
So nobody is going to get any special brownie points in their afterlife for coming to Pakistan. You have to make yourself supremely attractive. You have to earn it.
You have to absolutely earn these investments. We are one of the very few countries in this region where foreign investors can own 100% owned company in Pakistan. You can't do that in GCC. Sure. You can't do that in so many other countries, except defense and some other related countries. I mean, there's a lawyer sitting here. We need to, like Junaid said, we have to attract the investments. Perhaps we need to give some constitutional protection to investment policies, that once the policies are made in this term, they will not be, ad hocly changed. And once that comes into place, I think that would do a lot of good for foreign investors. I'm running a company which is a financial holding company between me and the Zaroni family of UAE. We just started investing in Pakistan. The biggest worry for my partners to invest money into Pakistan absolutely was ad hoc policy change. So, yet they love, all these neighbors, GCC countries love Pakistan. Literally, the old UAE families went to school here.
Sure.
Their parents went to school and colleges here. So they have this emotional attachment, and they are in position to make billions of dollars in investment. Abu Dhabi Group has made billions of dollars of investment here. So I think we have a lot of friends, but sometimes you scare even your own friends by not being stable. And I think we have begun to go in the right direction politically. Democracy is, hands changing systematically. Investment policies will come in. This was a great thing that circular debt was retired.
I need to take a short break. When I come back, I'd like to, because you said this whole retail thing is not necessarily just enough. I want to understand, for my benefit, what sort of opportunities and possibilities exist. Foreign investment is one thing. Domestic investment, internal investment, organic investment. What sort of opportunity is there for that? What sort of retail opportunity exists? Like all of you to comment, and what sort of protections and is there? Let's take a short break. We'll talk about one of these things. Please stay with us. Staying with us, watching Perspectives. In the break, you were telling me about how the atmosphere has been created and what more needs to be done. Please.
No, absolutely. I think the situation in Pakistan is very different now, and it's. I think perception typically takes a while to change. So eventually it will change, and the foreign investor essentially looks at the opportunity. Risk-adjusted return. As long as any destination offers a risk-adjusted return which are comparable, they would come in.
Sure.
Yeah. In Pakistan, in my opinion, and we look at these returns day in, day out, are offering great returns. It's not a lawless situation, as Ali explained. There's an opportunity to make money. What can we do more here to attract these investors and on a fast-track basis? I think
domestic investors.
We'll come to domestic investor.
Right, now foreign. Okay.
So foreign investor. The foreign investment market has recovered. Even though the global economy might still be going through a recessionary period, the foreign investment has recovered significantly. Pakistan is still not benefiting from it. Our share of the foreign investment is probably even less than 1%, even though the returns that we're offering as a destination are fairly comparable to the rest of the world.
Let me give you some numbers.
Please.
So we were at about $1 billion in the fiscal year 05. By fiscal year 08, we had gone up to attracting about $5 billion a year. Since 08, it's been falling down. It again fell to about $1 billion. And up to in the last fiscal year, we again raised $2 billion. Now, in a country with such a large population, you need to grow at 7-8% every year for you to be able to create the kind of jobs that are required to feed a population of 180 or 200 million, whatever the right number is. So the policies have to be such that this number has to go up every year. It was $1 billion the year before. It's again up to $2 billion this year. If we successfully can do the 3G auction as well and some other investments, we should aim to hit about $4 billion this year. And really, the Nawaz Sharif government should set a goal for itself that in the last year of their government, for this tenure, they should be targeting a 10 billion mark, which would be the highest ever in the history of Pakistan. When fresh capital gets injected, and foreign capital is important because the tickets are big. You bring in a big group, they put in $200 million. There's local capital available as well, but a local group puts up an investment of 5 billion rupees, 10 billion rupees. That's considered a big ticket for a local investor. The big projects, the refineries, the motorways, the large coal-fired power plants, your jetties, your terminals for import of LNG.
Without foreign investment.
This cannot be done without foreign
Absolutely. There are major infrastructure projects that need to be financed. And typically the financing is the major component, 80 to 75%.
Finance, yes. The two things, foreign investment, foreign financing. It can be local interests getting foreign investment, am I right?
Sure.
Foreign finance.
No, mostly they're foreign investment.
But it could be the other way.
Could be.
The local institutes can also come in and finance, but they have run out of capacity. Unfortunately, last few years they have not been. Now they're looking to. Even today, this morning, I was reading an article. Standard Chartered has basically committed to SATA that they would be very keen to finance some of the infrastructure projects that are going on, especially in Punjab. So, these banks are now coming and opening up. So previously there was a complete credit squeeze. The government was borrowing massively, and these guys were not able to lend and finance the greenfield investment opportunities in Pakistan.
You need big ticket money to do big stuff. If you want to set up a 1,000 megawatt coal-fired plant, just 1,000 megawatt, it's going to cost you about $2 billion.
$2 billion. Yeah.
Now, in order to do that, you need about $400 million of actual equity. You need cash, whether it's coming locally or globally. And you need about $1.6 billion of financing, of loans from local or foreign banks or with organizations like OPEC or IFC and so on and so forth. Now, $400 million is no small amount. If you put 5 of the largest Pakistani groups together, or 3-4 of the largest Pakistani groups together, they can together put the equity for one such project. $400 million is a lot of money for Pakistan.
Junaid,
I'm sorry.
I beg to differ in a very nice way. Your figures are right. Could Pakistani people invest that kind of money? Yeah, give them a tax break, ask them no questions, and say, oh, you know what? Wherever you have the money, bring it and invest it. Boom, they can do $2 billion in 3 days.
Even if we say whether they can, whether such money is available?
Absolutely, it's available.
There is money in the system, and he's right.
No, not necessarily. I think it's bank account.
But what Mohammad Ali is talking about here, he's partially talking about tapping the sort of black economy and saying no question.
I'm even talking about not the black economy. I'm not talking about the bureaucrat and the politician economy. No, I'm talking about the businessman economy, which has money hidden away, sunk into land, sitting in bank accounts across the world, invested globally.
Money.
That's huge money. Or it's not even undocumented anymore.
No, that's documented money.
Thank you.
Documented money is probably 10, 15, 20% of the real money.
Just every big shot has at least 3 sons and daughters who are Canadian, Australian, and American nationals. Now it's all documented money. They legally hold money all over the world now because they've got national sitting. So what about that money?
I'd like my other colleagues to comment on this, but I do think these tickets are big.
So when I talk about domestic or organic investment, that's what I'm referring to. Please.
Sure. No, I think before I get to domestic investment, I think Junaid's point stands. Some of these massive infrastructure projects are not easy to finance locally. Coming to domestic opportunity, there's a humongous opportunity. I mean, we had a 180 million population, 6th largest, soon to be 5th largest. I keep mentioning this point, but I think this point really talks about the fundamental young population which is consuming virtually any consumption-driven product you look in Pakistan, they're doing phenomenally well. They've had a great ride in the last 5 years. In fact, to the extent that some of the multinationals which are operating in that fast-moving consumer goods sector, they're looking to delist from the sector because they don't want to share the profits.
But we also need to grow our middle class.
We do.
Okay, which is the backbone of any economy.
And for that, you need to encourage entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship has to be increased.
That is how you create jobs and create wealth for people locally and domestically. Unless
simultaneously, both efforts have to be made. You can't choose one over the other.
So currently, and one point I would like to add here, the capital market is not helping the middle and the lower class create wealth. They're only helping a few select families at the top creating wealth for themselves.
Fair point.
So capital market needs to reform. The entrepreneurship element needs to evolve, and you look at the top universities in Pakistan, they are for a reason now promoting centers of entrepreneurship development. A lot of investors are coming into Pakistan trying to promote social impact investments and entrepreneurship, and this is a good sign for this country. This is a good sign for this country.
Just following up on what Junaid was saying, I can just quote one example that probably after 2002 power policy, most of your thermal IPPs have been financed by local banks and sponsors that are all Pakistan-based. With an exception of a couple of them, but most of them, I would say probably 90% of them. However, that is not the quantum of investment we're looking for. If Pakistan has to go to the next stage, to the next level, then we're looking at 600 megawatts of one coal plant and 600 megawatts of another coal plant. And you're looking at refineries, and you're looking at infrastructure projects, building motorways between cross provinces, building bullet trains by project. by public-private partnerships. For that, you will need foreign investment. Now, whether that foreign investment comes in terms of equity or in terms of debt or maybe a supplier's credit, all those engineering, procurement, construction contractors delivering you the machinery. For that, it requires a good perspective of Pakistan abroad, a true appreciation of what the contractual and the regulatory framework of this country is, and opportunities to be given to them.
And that exists right now or not?
And I would say that it does exist in the present regulatory regime.
Legal framework.
In the legal framework, it does. Even the foreign investment is protected by the legislation that is already in place in this country. What I find to be an interesting element is it's not the problem with this, not as much of a big problem with the structure itself. It's actually the contracts are watertight, the judicial system is in place, and people do get justice, we go to courts. It's actually the enforcement of the contracts. Now, Junaid mentioned what good is a contract if you won't get paid. But to be honest with you, last time we all went to courts to get paid, we got paid in this country. And that is what the legal system is all about. So I think it's
How
very...
long did it take to get you paid?
No, that's a litigation.
Oh, sorry, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I mean, absolutely, we should get paid, and it should be speedy justice. Not 25 years of litigation.
Absolutely, there are glimpses of hope on that front.
Absolutely, there's
you know, when we talk about foreign investment, we think about the Gora. We only think about the European investor or the Chinese investor. One thing India was able to do very successfully in the 90s was attracting investments from the Indian diaspora. Now, the Pakistani diaspora is very successful in the US, in Europe. I mean, in Norway, the largest minority is Pakistanis, for instance.
That gentleman who just started an airline at Switzerland?
Absolutely. Shahid Khan, who's the car parts baron, has got Fulham and Jacksonville.
Exactly.
The
Pakistanis are owning football teams and launching airlines.
But if you go and meet, you know, Pakistanis, our friends, our brothers who live abroad, their perception of Pakistan is extremely negative because they've all been burnt either in a property or one thing or the other. So one by one, you need a very consistent policy and top-class implementation over a sustained period of time. Ali is correct. You have the right policies in place, but really smart policies in place, but the implementation doesn't happen. Or as our friend here said, the amount of time it takes for law to take its due course. I mean, power companies did get their money eventually, which was stuck in the circular debt, but it took good 5 years. And it's a very painful process. In the meanwhile, International Power, which was one of the first and major investors of Pakistan, has sold off its stake in HUPCO, is now selling off its stake in Capco, Kotadu. It's now consolidating its stake in Uch Power, and it makes absolute logical sense that they will probably exit from here. So while there are success stories of new banks coming in, multinationals investing more as well, all your telecom providers are all foreign investors. Every single one of them, starting from Ufone, Warid, Telenor, China Mobile. So there is money coming in as well, but there is money going out. For this to make a big impact for Pakistan's wheels to start turning in a speedy manner, you need $5 to $7 to $10 billion of fresh capital being injected in Pakistan year in, year out. That requires, you need law enforcement for that. You need consistency of policies. This flip-flop between democracy and military coups also needs to stop.
And military democracy.
One point, I think there is, I mean, I don't want to sound a person who's talking about conspiracy theories, but I also think the foreign media is absolutely projecting Pakistan in such a bad manner.
You think?
See? I like to be politically correct, because I got a good to travel there. So I think they're sitting outside. My family's in America. Sure. When I talk to my sister, if there's a bomb that goes on and she sees it on TV, she thinks this entire country is being bombed. Okay. I mean, that is the...
Yes. And one more point here. You mentioned that Pakistani, fluent Pakistani diaspora abroad, they have such a negative view on Pakistan. If we can't change their view, how can we change the view of the non-Pakistanis? What is the reason? What is the reason why Pakistanis, the fluent Pakistanis sitting abroad, think so negatively about Pakistan?
Upsetting the diaspora, which I have a habit of doing.
Faisal, I've thought about this a lot. I think one of the main reasons why these Pakistanis have a negative sentiment about Pakistan because they feel merit doesn't get precedence over other issues in Pakistan. If they come into Pakistan, they know that someone who deserves to win a contract will not. Someone who's better connected to the person at the top.
There must be 50 other countries when foreign investors feel the same thing.
Transparency is one area.
Okay? So
but Ali, my point here is transparency needs to be promoted. If you've got to
you have done business in African countries, you have no concept of transparency. Asia, Philippines, no concept of transparency. The only difference between us and them is they're vigorously still looking for foreign investors. Okay.
Again, it is not the Pakistani diaspora's responsibility. It's not foreign media's responsibility. It's our responsibility. If Pakistanis sitting in Chicago or DC have a negative perception of Pakistan, it's our job to fix it. Because it's their prerogative not to invest. No one's doing it. If you're sitting in the US and you've got a couple of $1 million in your pocket, the world is open to you. You can go anywhere. You can go to Vietnam. You could go to Cambodia. You could go to South America. I mean, you can't. I mean, he doesn't have to come to Pakistan. You have to really compel that.
Absolutely. But for that purpose, none of us have to come back to Pakistan. It's the fact that you have taken ownership to come back and fix things here. You know, I think they need to be engaged in some capacity. They need to be.
Okay, about eight minutes left. This is about 5 minutes. I'm going to cover this. There's one thing which is, and I'd like closing notes as well within the answer of this. We talk about foreign investment. We talk about government foreign investment where it takes 5 years to get your money. But about private, domestic, and private foreign investment. Is there opportunity in that area?
Sorry, I'm not clear.
Private houses within Pakistan, tying up with private or whatever money, investor money abroad, and then giving them the front comfort.
That is happening. That is happening. For example, the Nishat group, the Mansha group, had partnered with sort of with the Malaysian group on projects. So right now, a lot of Chinese groups are trying to work with the various companies which are involved in power to come in. I mean, I think a lot of similar stuff has happened.
Simpler?
It makes it simpler. For example, when Mobilink first came to Pakistan, it was the first foreign telecom company to come in. They came in with the Saifullah family as 11% stakeholders because they said these guys are politically connected. They will protect our stake. So yes, that is a model as well, and that is happening. But the onus really falls on the government. The guy who's sitting outside says, Sanugi, if you don't want our money, you don't want our money.
No, of course, there's no denying that.
Not getting there.
Find the possibilities. There's no denying that the government has to play its role, and we can't. And I fully agree. We can't point a gun at somebody and put money here.
It absolutely gives you comfort. I'm a living example sitting here. When I put this partnership together between myself and the Zaruni family, the first thing they said is, who's going to look after our investments in Pakistan? I said, I'll go.
And for that you need trust capital, Ali. So you have the trust capital, you're able to afford that JV. Some of us, we have that trust capital. Majority of us, we do not have that trust capital. Some of us, we had the trust capital, we wasted it. We have a lot of examples where JVs happened, money was siphoned out, those guys left with a sour taste. Regulators need to get smart. They need to protect the interests of just not the minority shareholders, but also these foreign investors who are coming into Pakistan with a good perception, but eventually leave with a bad perception. So their interests need to be protected.
I think trust is very interesting because I think ultimately we advise clients on a daily basis, JVs being formed between foreign investors and local investors. And a lot of these big investments that you see in Pakistan are a result of having some very strong local partners, people who can help you out while procuring land, procuring consents, getting the right contracts in place, and actually getting things done in the country. And I think this is going to be this will develop over time when, inshallah ta'ala, when business houses, a lot of business houses in Pakistan are doing business abroad, internationally, and we see this to be a good opportunity if the environment is right, which it is, I feel to be the case, that foreign partners joining up hands with local partners and doing all different kinds of projects, may it be public-private partnerships or merely investing in private businesses.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. I am an absolute introvert, so I don't really go out much. But I do read. And for once, I want to thank social media. This Eid, just night before Eid, people were tweeting from Karachi and Islamabad, and I was amazed. In Karachi, at the Dolman Mall, apparently there was a queue to get in, which was, I think, half-hour long. And somebody who was in there sent me a photograph of the number of people in that place. It sort of took me back maybe 2 decades when I was younger. And I remember Eid to be with that buzz. So thank you for all the malls for doing this and providing an environment. I think we have the resilience to come back and create that environment. In Islamabad, I haven't had the opportunity to see this new mall, but apparently there was a waiting line for, I think, people waiting 45 minutes to just get in. So that's great, and as all of you, thank you. That was a fantastic discussion. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank me, Mohammad Ali, for organizing these discussions on Pakistan investment. If you have any comments, questions, please email us. And if you have questions from our guests, please email me and I will forward your questions to them. Until next time.